Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Estate with Ryan. It's exciting to be with you on a Saturday to talk a little favorite topic, real estate. Big day Saturday, as you know. A lot of people may be busy. I don't know what you guys will be doing on a Saturday. Oh, that's right. It's game day. It's a big day for Vols playing Georgia. Oh, what an amazing time. Hope to see you guys there. But thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to Real Estate with Ryan. And if you're catching on the replay, no worries. We've got available for you Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, all those channels. We're always available on the replay. So thank you for tuning in. Got a good show for you. As always, appreciate all you listening. Of course, our partners over on News Talk 98.7 at 1 o'clock. You can find Real Estate with Ryan there. Or Talk Radio 92.3 FM at 11 a.m. Also streaming on their Facebook channel live. Great opportunity to catch Real Estate with Ryan on the radio as you go there. So got a good show for you, a lot going on. So before we start, as always, we got some congrats, new listings. We've been busy. We talk about the end of the year picking up. Rates have dropped. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. We got some congrats and some new listings we want to chat about. So congrats on our brand new listing down in Regas. Penthouse is officially for sale, 333 West Depot, Unit 617. It's on the market this weekend. It's coming soon. Make sure you take an opportunity to check that out. We'll go live, official showings. We'll start taking appointments probably Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. So check that property out. 560 Thesa Way in Gatlinburg. We'll be there. Check that property, new listing. 527 River Place Way in Sevierville. New property there to check out. And, of course, 8410 Woodbend Trail in Knoxville. New listing that we've got coming on the market. You don't want to miss that out. And let's say congrats on our great seller, 307 Timber Creek in Maynardville, under contract, and our great sellers that closed out here in Park Vista Way in Pigeon Forge. Great cabin out there that went under contract. So those are our new listings. Congrats. Another closing that's a larger one that we're going to move that to next week's show. There's a little bit of drama in there, and, it's real estate. I think that's one of the hardest things. I was chatting with my client is just, real estate is never, how would I say it? It's never... I say it's never easy. We all know that. It's never easy, but it's never boring. That's what I would like to say. My staff is never bored. We always have something going on. Each day is a new day, but we're able to handle it with grace, and our great team here is make everything happy. And so, there's some things that come up. That's just life. That's business, and we're able to get you through the finish line, and just thankful for the opportunity, and thank you guys on just a tough week going on across. So y'all have watched the news. We won't mention anything about that, but it's been a tough week, but a great day for football here in East Tennessee. Go Vols, big opportunity. Make sure you're following our channels. We had a huge outpouring of people and reach, and we just sent 2 lucky guests to the game. So we'll be doing that next week. Like and share our channels, all our social channels. It doesn't cost anything. That's our little thing we like to do every year. Try to give back and get people to the game, especially how expensive tickets are and in demand, hard to find tickets. So mortgage interest rates hit a 11-month low. Mortgage rates tumbled Thursday to an 11-month low following the disappointing job reports alongside August inflation data. This could shape the Federal Reserve's closely watched interest rate decision for next week. Now, the 30-year fixed mortgage has went down from 6.5 to 6.35, according to Freddie Mac. That's a 15-point basis from last week, the largest weekly drop in the past year. So I think all in anticipation is that federal fund rate still 4.25 or from 4.5, so it dropped a little bit. I think all eyes are looming that next week the Feds are probably going to do a quarter of a point interest rate adjustments. All signs are pointing to that with the jobless claim numbers and different things like that. So, the inflation also was a key point on that. It went from 2.7 to 2.9. And one of the biggest categories there, and the reason for that, was surging prices on gas and groceries. They're expecting a quarter point, but who knows? I mean, we really don't want to predict what's going to happen. Some analysts are saying that they're expecting more. But we'll see. And they're expected to cut a couple times the rest of this year. So That being said, one of the stats that I was able to pull and kind of prepare for the show is that 81% of homeowners out there have a mortgage rate below 6%. I thought that was interesting. And it gave us a chart here. So if you're in the radio, obviously you're not privy to that. But I had an opportunity to look at this chart. And I think it's interesting if you're following the real estate market and kind of where things have been going. In 22, it seems like that was just a blink ago. If you're like me, you get the Facebook memories, and I get my kids on there, and I'm going, that was like yesterday. But you look back at 22, interest rates were 3%, 3.05. In 23, if you remember all that, went up to 7. And then, of course, 24 at the highest, 7.79. And here we are approximately in 25, 6.35. So you're seeing some of that inventory not hit the market. Luxury market, less and less on the market, less inventory. So that's driving prices up as well. So those are things to think about. So where does that leave the housing market for you? I think it's an opportunity now. I think one of the key things is that the interest rates change, and we're expecting them to change here quickly. If you're thinking about purchases, do just a reminder. I won't talk much about it, but make sure you check your credit. There's a lot of free sites out there. Make sure it's all perfect. There's nothing out there that could stop in the way of getting a mortgage at the last minute. And you don't have to go to many of these places. A lot of them, like we do Experian or Credit Karma, or different places like that will let you track your credit and things like that. So I think that's a big thing where most consumers don't think about. And, something comes up last minute, and then you're spending time looking at that. And then what you don't want to do is something come up, we get the rates finally down to a great opportunity. And then what happens? Oh, my goodness. Hey, there's this little ding here, this little ding there. And before you know it, you're paying more for the rate, and you've already got everything in motion. You've got your home moving and you're purchasing. So do those. I think that's a quick checkup that would be very valuable moving forward. So let's see what else we've got in the news here. A lot going on in the housing market. We're going to talk about patience won't sell your house, pricing will. And we won't spend much time on that. I think that's an important factor, but I wanted to kind of piggyback before I go into that. I want to talk about the interest rates. We chatted about that and what we're seeing on the market if you're selling or buying. So as a buying opportunity, we're looking at the builders' incentives have reached a 5-year high. I thought that was important. A little news article was mentioning that, hey, D.R. Horton and Lennar are some of the spec builders that are in the market right now that we're seeing they're building spec. And if you're not familiar with a spec home, it means the builder's building on the property and just a cookie cutter or a plain floor plan that they've built, and that it could have some bells and whistles, but they build it without an owner in mind. It's not a custom build. So they're speculating for a buyer that would want that property the way it is. And they say it's very risky in this market, but they're doing it in a combination with the 5-year high of builder incentives. And I thought this was very interesting because it affects sellers and buyers in today's market. And if you're a buyer in today's market, obviously new construction has more inventory and more opportunities and more incentives than we've seen in several years. Turning new construction into more of a buyer's advantageous. Some of the incentives we saw that builders were offering across the country were up to 100-point buy-down basis point. So what does that mean in interest rates and in our market? What that means is that could be a interest rate as effective as 5%. That's a big difference between moving 6.2 to 6.5. There's a lot more affordability. And these builders have a lot more room on their margins to buy those rates down. So when you're in the market and you're thinking about selling today's market, and you say, well, who's our buyer and where are they coming from? The great thing about our area is we have out-of-state buyers and local buyers, so we have a larger pool. And with private schools being dominant, homeschool, different scenarios like that, schooling is important, but not always the primary factor, okay? And buyers are expanding their search. So, if we're in the Farragut School District and we're looking for just Farragut schools, sometimes buyers are expanding a little bit wider. Expanding the radius. And so those are things to think about. Did a survey of the builders currently active. 66% of builders are offering sales incentive in August. Price cuts are obviously on the table. And never really seen that overall. as you know, new construction as a whole has an opportunity where, if the builder makes an adjustment on one, it could affect a domino effect of other properties down there. It means probably you have better kitchens, floor plans, some art upgrades, fewer headaches. If as a buyer, these are opportunities that make a difference. There's an opportunity now to kind of get in there and get some cold hard numbers and avoid the sales pitch to get you your best deal. So I think there's opportunities. Look, we're coming on a break in just a second. We got more with Real Estate with Ryan on the second half.
Knoxville and East Tennessee. The region is known for its rolling hills, rivers, and lakes. There's no better place to work, live, or raise a family. Home is where your story begins. Buying or selling your home is a big decision, and you need a real estate team you can trust.
I'm Ryan Coleman with Hometown Realty, your hometown experts. Whether you're buying or selling a home, let us develop a winning game plan for you.
Hometown Realty is East Tennessee's #1 real estate group and a proud sponsor of the Vols.
I'm Ryan Coleman with Hometown Realty. The real estate market's changing every day. You need to know your home's value in today's market. Text your home address to 290-2290 for an instant, no obligation home evaluation. That's 865-290-2290. And remember, when you're ready to sell, we have a guaranteed sale program to get you in your next home stress-free. Trust your hometown experts. We've helped thousands of people just like you. All right, we're back at it, second half, Real Estate with Ryan. Thank you for staying tuned. As always, it's a Friday, and what happens on Friday? Your voice goes out in the middle of the radio show. So we're going to try to get through this second half and hope it's not too bad for you guys. But we were talking about on the first half that the builders' incentives have reached a 5-year high. And what does that mean in the housing market right now? It means that there's opportunities that you've not seen as a buyer. Opportunities, bigger kitchens, bigger layouts, smarter upgrades. Bottom line, I think what I was talking about before break was there's opportunities to cut through the sales pitch and get real numbers, real deals. Interest rates with a buy down at 5%, there's an opportunity. So maybe in your budget, maybe new construction is a great opportunity. But just because it's a spec build or a lower interest rate doesn't mean that you want to settle on that just because the interest rate's lower. So that could be like the invitation because there's a low interest rate, but the floor plan or the neighbors are right on top of you, or doesn't have the backyard that you're looking for. I mean, those are critical things moving forward. So I said the biggest thing I'm seeing in the housing market is make sure you make good decisions and don't settle. If the timing's not right for you, it will be. Make the right move, make the right call. And everything will work out. I think interest rates as a whole, you're going to see this second half explode. We've been extremely busy. Lots of sales, lots of contracts, new listings in the market. And of course, we're seeing housing on the market for a longer period of time. Opportunities, we talk about patience in the housing market. And currently right now, the homes are averaging about 60 days on the market. And, waiting for that perfect buyer in today's market is not easy, especially with things not exactly where we want to see it. A lot of the news media, and I guess we're in the news media to some degree, but the news media has got the consumers a little nervous. And of course, whether the jobs numbers are exactly where they want to be, whether inflation reports up, down, interest rates up, down, who knows, right? And so there's some uncertainty in the housing market. And when there's uncertainty, people hold. People do what? They don't move. And of course, with inventory, we talked about in the first half, 81% of the homes or 81% of people have interest rates below 6%. And so let's be real, in today's housing market, they're taking longer to sell. And, it's a 17-month straight year-over-year increases in the housing. It's kind of with, I was talking with my great colleagues yesterday, with just everything. I went in just the store yesterday, and we had a radio shoot, and we're doing a video for this beautiful property, by the way. Go check it out in Mallard Bay Drive. It's gorgeous. And we're doing a video for that, and we had to buy some batteries for the radio. And, walked into the store, and the batteries, we're talking AA. We're not talking like a case of batteries. We're talking, just 2 little packs, $20. I mean, and that kind of shows you where the inflation of the cost of just living, everyday living, is what we're dealing with, and the affordability for the young generation to purchase a home. It's almost getting out of reach. It's probably already out of reach. And so at what pace, you kind of have to ask yourself this question as things keep going up. And where's the opportunity there? But as always, some people have to buy and sell, and people are moving consistently, and so there's opportunities. Average listing prices have held steady over the past few years, and that's one of the keynotes. Is sometimes if inflation kicks in, but then if the housing and some goods and services go down, but it seems like now, just to get an improvement or get a deck done or get a roof done or get something done, what prices were 2 or 3 years ago or even a year ago seem like they went up 10 or 20%. And I think some are just going up because they can go up, right? That's just the opportunity. If there's an opportunity in the housing market, it trickles on down to almost everything that you're going to purchase. Hold steady in the market with rapid pace. So I would say holding steady in this market may and may not work for you. I think it's hard to time the market exactly. It just can't happen. If your house is on the market, I think one of the key things to think about is this is not the pandemic. And if you're waiting, as we're seeing a lot of sellers, where they're waiting to, get that exact price, or maybe their neighbor has a home for sale that has sold, different circumstances, and you're holding out for that price. I can't tell you the amount of people that we talk to where, well, Johnny got XYZ down the street and our home is better for that and better than that. And I don't know the exact details, and that may be the case, but the market is what we're seeing, at least in a 90-day swing period now. And so I'd say be very cautious, hesitant, right, to make sure that if the numbers aren't there, it's today's market. And ultimately, the market's going to be what a buyer is willing to pay. And I think if your home has been on the market for a little bit, not getting the activity, not getting the love that we need, really need to look at the pricing, need to look at the strategy as well. There's 2 factors that come into play. So I would say a lot of factors that come into play. If your house is on the market, kind of leads into this next topic that we're talking about, kind of talking about if the home's not selling, what are our options, Ryan? What are things we can do? Obviously, we know, you always say lower the price, Ryan. That's your whole answer. No? But those are options, right? You could take it off the market. That's another option, or you could rent it. And that's kind of the option we're going to talk about today is you could rent the home. And thinking about renting your home instead of selling it, there's an opportunity there. But is that for you? The term accidental landlord. Have you ever heard accidental landlord? Or homeowners who tried to sell their home but couldn't get the price they wanted and instead have decided to rent their homes out until conditions improve. And that is always an opportunity. The rental market, I would say, as a whole, is pretty strong. We are seeing some rentals increase. I looked at Knoxville just the other day in North Knoxville, and there were very few rentals prior. Now we're seeing an increase in those. So we're seeing that inventory tick up a little bit. What is happening more often right now, while there's always been accidental landlords in an era of middling home sales by stepping rise in borrower rates, it's a new wave of new reluctant, right, rental owners. So basically sales over the years have slowed down and buyers struggle with today's affordability, right? And now you have become a landlord by accident, not by on purpose. Maybe you had that job transfer or for some combination of reasons. Hey, we're not getting the number. We're going to put it as a rental. First and foremost, before you do that, make sure you do, number one, if you're going to rent it out and you're moving out of state, make sure you have a management company, maintenance, and all that is taken care of. Last thing you want to do is deal with a lot of maintenance or repairs or contractors out of state. Does the home need any repairs? Some of these things are just not even possible. Homes on the market, didn't go through. We're going to put it on a rental. Are you able to do that? Do your research on the front end. One of the things I think, make sure that it covers your mortgage, or make sure you're making the potential profit that you need for the area. In our business, we do something called a CMA, or a market analysis of home sales, but you can do that on the rental market as well to get an analysis of what homes are renting for in your area as well. And then if it's homes in a neighborhood, or if it's rural, are they attracting certain buyers in your area? And is there a high turnover rate there, or is it a low turnover rate? It could be very rural and not as many renters in that area. What does it take to be a landlord? And we could probably talk about that subject. I've got a great builder of mine and friend, and he just says, he can't constantly tell us enough that he is not ready to be a landlord. He says, I can't deal with the toilets. I can't deal with the termites. I can't deal with all the stuff but if as a landlord, if you're managing or you're self-managing it, you really got to be, I say, thick-skinned and understand the process. Probably the number one thing that if you're going to put somebody in there, whether it's you or a management company, which I would recommend a management company, make sure you put the right tenant on the front end. Make sure you have the right leases and things that go in. Make sure you have the right insurance. You have to change your insurance, or God forbid something happens and you're not living there and you have your same homeowner's insurance. They won't cover it. They'll deny the claim. It's so big. Most people forget about that. And if you try to skimp and say, oh, no, well, it's never a problem until there's an issue. So make sure you do that. There's management fees that you're going to have to incur, maintenance, advertisements, and, of course, there's gaps in between tenants and changeouts. I think one of the biggest things dealing with tenants as a whole is, it's a communication business and an expectation business. So if you're not up for that, I would definitely consider not renting. But those are options. But sometimes you have to do what you have to do. And if you're going to put somebody in, make sure you do the proper screening, eviction checks. And there's all kinds of sites out there, especially if you do it yourself. I would recommend a good property management. They're going to make sure the screening's there, the proper leases are to protect you, and all the things are covered, especially either locally or out of state. So, it's a big day today. I think my voice is coming back. I think you know why, because it's about to yell, go down to the stadium. Big time for the Vols. Going to be a good game here at 3:30. Big time. College game day is here. We will be in the house. I hope you guys have an amazing time. It's going to be a good weekend. And the housing market, watch what's going on next week. Have so much going on in the news. We got a great show for you. Have an amazing weekend. Go Vols. And we look forward to seeing you back next weekend with Real Estate with Ryan.